My name is Sonali McDermid, and I'm an assistant professor of environmental studies at New York University. And I'm a climate modeler by training, and I look at the impact and evaluate the impact of climate change on agriculture, but also of agriculture and land use on our environmental systems. And so I've been at NYU for 1 year now and hope to continue. On the agricultural front, I suppose, some of the things that I just want to caution against that are out there is, a couple of things. One is this idea of food miles and the distance your food has traveled as being a big issue. And on that note, there are far more emissions, perhaps between 70 and 80% of the emissions from agriculture come from production itself, not from the distance traveled on your food. So, this whole idea of eating local is really noble. In fact, I managed farmers markets all through my graduate schooling, so I completely ascribe to and support local farmers. But local is not always synonymous with environmentally friendly, and even for that, it is perhaps true that food that comes locally is more nutritious, but equating that with a greener form of production, so to speak, is not always the case. So local food is really about something else. Local food is about drawing a connection to your farmer, knowing where your food comes from, right? And oftentimes those farmers generally do treat the land very well, and so there's overlap. But local food is a really different dynamic, and it's not that local is more environmentally friendly necessarily. So that's the first thing. The second thing is sort of this debate around GMOs, which I just talked about. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that I don't oppose GMO labeling. I think it's important, but then again, I think everything should be labeled, right? I mean, everything should be labeled. We should know what's in everything. But that doesn't mean that GMOs are necessarily a bad thing. Unfortunately, it's hard to do labeling without stigmatizing something. But I think that the body of knowledge on the impact of GMOs is very case study specific and not wide enough yet, in the sense that we can draw conclusions. And I think that it's kind of self-righteous for Western activists to be going into sub-Saharan Africa or South Asia in the poorest communities and telling farmers not to grow it because there's some kind of embedded, feeling that it's not natural or something like that, right? Particularly if those technologies can really help small-scale farmers. The reality is we have gotten ourselves into a situation in which we are tied to the agricultural systems that exist. Now, there are phenomenal people who are looking to break that tie and go organic, go boutique, go biodynamic, and that's all really noble. But, farmers need options, and farmers need to know what comes with those options. And it's up to the farmer and the people that they serve, their constituency, the people that are buying, to make the decision of what to grow. And I don't think that that's something that can be imposed by the West or by any sort of activist group, right? I think that's a decision that we all need to explore together. And if it comes to that decision, we come to that together, fine. So I think this fear-mongering on GMOs is a little bit misplaced. It's important that it exists so that industry officials are compelled to be transparent, but I think we need to be careful about that. And then in terms of just food consumption overall, I don't think I think vegetarian diet, this is just something else. I think vegetarian diets are often thought of as just not, as being very complicated and confusing. And I don't think it needs to be that way. But on the flip side of things, I don't necessarily think all meat is bad. And I don't think that absconding meat is something that's going to be necessarily culturally acceptable everywhere, even though you could argue cultures change. But I think that there's a lot to respect about pasture and meat rearing. I think we just need to kind of re-gauge the role of meat in our diets, how much, how often, that sort of thing. And so I think there needs to be broader discussions and less factious discussions about this stuff, right? And right now, food, everyone has an opinion on food. Even if they don't think they have an opinion, they have an opinion on food. And it's important to get beyond the opinions and start looking at some of the facts and evaluating them for what they are.